the bottom right-hand side, he just beat me on Micah. How will he fare in ZvT on his opponent's map pick? Again, that's the challenge of this as well. You gotta play on the opponent's map pick in this, and that's gonna make life a little bit tougher. It is Reynor in the bottom right corner of Hard Lead. Up against the Shopify Rebellion Blue Terran, this is ByuN. Final map of the day. Let's get this up and run. Okay. Let's see what we expect on this one as we get into it. I was going to have an overlord of Reynor already moving to the upper side of the map. Couple drones coming out, pool on the way. A hatchery as well, and it's obviously nothing too crazy just yet. No gas, fairly notable. So gas will be a bit later, if at all, here from Reynor. I say if at all, obviously at some point you take gas, but I guess we'll see at what point. Creepers on the way up again, hatch, gas, and pool all coming through. Reaper is on the way up, the orbital and the command center coming by as well. Yeah. Usually when you play no gas, it's because you're trying to help deal with the Reaper openers. The Reaper openers are very tough to make work against no gas because your opponent has that extra boost of income from not mining gas, and they can get a few more queens out to help defend, and you can just make that work pretty decently just in general. Couple queens and the drones on the way. The overlord is about to finish up as well. And you have this Reaper coming out towards the natural. As we'll see the drone going to be ending up low HP, and the other Reaper taking some damage. Well, obviously we'll just continue to defend here with these queens for the moment. As we have the Reaper going low, 4 HP left on it. And it's going to pull back around to the bottom side. Figuring out what he would like to get done. As the CC reactor continues up as well, we continue to get these structures on the way. It turns back around for the moment. And it goes down. Just going to be seeing the Crypt Tumor being picked away at once again. Reaper got greedy. Didn't get the Crypt Tumor. Lost the Reaper. Reynor drops the dots. ByuN drops the sad face. That's how they feel about it. Is, you know, Reaper just got a little bit greedy. Immediately Rotron on the way down here from Reynor as he hits the lair as well. So we bring that up and running. We get that started. There's a few queens. We'll be gathering up. 2 Hellions make their way out down to the bottom right-hand side of the map, so away we go. Hellions come about, Rotron on the way up, Overlord speed still coming through as well. Let's just have our stills, the queen there to deflect these Hellions. Overlord speed. I wonder how aggressive Reynor gets. We're actually going to see more factories from ByuN. He's going to play Mech. Reynor with Overlord speed could really do something to kill Mech as well, right? Because if he just goes for like a Queen Roach attack, there's a lot of times in which Mech is just not good enough to hold on against those sort of, you know, timings. So it's going to be actually a pretty big investment from Reynor. That Overlord speed could go a long way. The Hellion from ByuN pretty much tells you everything that's going on. Got a drone or so, and amongst that, first Cyclone's on the way up. The siege tank coming through as well. And Roach speed still coming out also here for the moment, so we get that all to go. Hellion still chilling over on the left. And a couple more Cyclones building up as well. More Hellions back around into the center. Let's go back over the far right-hand side. So again, just going to get reset over here. Armory on the way up. Cyclones, siege tank, bit of everything on the way through. Do have our Cyclones locking onto and killing off this Overseer. Reynor roaches, but then into the Spire as well. So yeah, he's really playing a funky setup. Especially considering he's playing against Mech. I mean, it just feels like there's always so many options against Mech, but roaches into Spire kind of makes it a weird one because you're kind of not really committing fully to a fight. Then you're going to attack into units, which can do well sometimes, the mutas, but then other times if the correct preparation is there, the mutas can kind of flop. So it kind of makes this just a weird question mark kind of all around as these roaches try and get forward, and they are going to find a couple Cyclones. The tank fire is very good, mind you, and they are going to be able to fire back, and a lot of those roaches taking hits and backing away over to the right-hand side. Spire is about to finish with the double Evo, the 10 drones all coming up as well. And there's a Hurricane Thrusters to give those Cyclones a little bit more speed to live by. Something else for them to hold on to. Retake this watchtower on the right-hand side of the map. Let's come back over to the left. We're just going to be having ourselves the Mutas on the way up also. So just bringing those straight out and about. Roaches come over here. The Hellions will again take a few more shots at things. 8 of those mutas all on the way through. Roach is going to be here immediately, just going to pick off one of these Hellions. Going to go for another. And you have our Cyclone production obviously all on the way through. Hellions is getting in for the scout for a second time now in this game. See the Spire as well. Those 8 Mutalisks are out and heading up to the left-hand side. Missile turrets are coming through, so we'll see how much these Mutalisks can get done. Setting out on the left for the moment. And again, the barracks is going to be seeing those Mutalisks flying on by. Infestation pit coming up. Missile turret is firing away. Full tanks, handful of Cyclones on the way through. And Hurricane Thrusters about to complete as the Infestation pit is also coming in here. The extra Overlords on the way out. Plus 1 missile upgrade is coming in also. All of this continuing through nicely for the moment as mutas will get in there one more time. A couple extra SCVs again, a job well done. Let's scan out over in the bottom right hand side. Here we have got Cyclone tank on a little bit of a move forward. So ByuN going to become an aggressor. Look at this from Reynor now into Swarm Hosts. He's just coming around the back, may find something kind of trailing along, trying to reinforce this army. The Swarm Hosts show up. I mean, there's no Hellbats in this army. How well will the Cyclones do trying to clean that up? It's not something you oftentimes see. The Baneling Nest going to be denied here on this side. I mean, here come the Locusts. The thing is, they don't want to land on the Cyclones. Realistically, they want to get to the siege tanks. They're going to lose a lot of their numbers on the way in, though. The mutas will find a chance to come onto the back couple of tanks here. The Roach Ravage is going to dive in as well. Most of the tanks will go down. You still have the kiting ability of the Cyclones available, though. A couple final battles, not enough to get rid of the last siege tank. And ByuN is continuing to press forwards. I mean, a lot of the supply of Reynor right now is in Swarm Hosts, which are not able to fight because they're on cooldown. And these Cyclones are just going untouched as they're working their way through each and every one of these Overlords. Moving forwards, and I mean, drones are pulling in. It looks as though the Mech of ByuN on hard lead is getting it done. Obviously, Reynor, I think the investment into mutas that doesn't really do enough for you. And it puts you in a bit of a weird spot. It makes life very difficult for you in general. It's always going to make this then a very tough game. And, you know, trying to switch in a Swarm Host. But the Swarm Host popping when your opponent's army is already on the other side of the map is such a pain in the butt. Not going to really give you too much of an opportunity then, as ByuN might come in to dethrone Reynor immediately on the last map of the day. Swarm Hosts continuing together. The Ravages coming through. Cyclones will knock down an Overlord. Well, big deal. Cyclones back to the left. Overlord will get taken down. We are just going to stand and fight these Locusts, which I do not think is the right call. I think that was ByuN just not paying attention for a moment. Cost him a couple of his Cyclones as he pulled those Cyclones away. A couple of Lings still trying to chase in. And turn around in the end. The rest of these tanks can get sieged up and try and push this back. Cyclone's going to come through. A couple more corrosive files coming in. And the Cyclones in general just able to keep that army of Reynor away for a moment. I mean, Reynor obviously is back up there on supply, and now his Swarm Hosts get to be aggressive. He will have some opportunities to maybe make something happen. He needs to make sure he protects these locations as we get the Cyclones in again, just having our Locust dropping straight on down. Now we're just going to try and break through this at the same time. We're going to get rid of quite a few of the tanks. Gun is very well set up for the future. He needs to survive right now. You know, he's got all the infrastructure he needs for a long time in this game. And I think he is going to get the surviving play here in the end. The Ravager, the Roach going down as well. He's just going to be able to nab those. A few units of Reynor continue back away into the bottom right-hand side. Cyclone still pressing through. Creep Team is going down. Cyclone's picking off another Creep Team of theirs. A bit more being done. Cyclone's coming through. The factory's coming up. So the Roach Ravager still moving across as Cyclones turn away once again. Peanut Butter, Jesus, thank you so much for the 8-month resub. Welcome back. Appreciate it. Swarm Hose will pop a few Locusts up into the sky. They're going to go advancing forwards. Dropping straight down here. Tank Cyclone being caught immediately. The other Cyclone's trying to kite away. Just going to see our Roach Ravager coming around the left-hand side as well. And a couple more of these Locusts still getting knocked away at. +2 missiles. Plenty of Roaches on the way up. Trying to bring as much in as possible in that regard. What do you have? Cyclone army from ByuN. Back to the right side. Like I say, I feel like ByuN's set up very well for the future. Lots of bases, lots of infrastructure. But he is struggling just in terms of just dealing with the army and the Swarm Hosts. And, you know, his actual army supply is very low down. The Cyclones here do not find too much success. About to get cornered in as well. Ravager's hunting for the wraparound. Depending where these Cyclones try and make it down the ramp. Yep, they try and come down here. They get caught. Now Reynor can cut him off to the upper right instead. They're guaranteed to die. The question is, how quickly do you give the Cyclones up? Well, we try and pull these units as far away as possible, but for a player that's already down in army supply, ByuN is going to be even further down in army supply as now tanks are getting found. I'm not going to say on their own because there are going to be Hellbats here, but that's a lot of tanks dying to this wave of Locusts. And these are things you cannot really allow to happen on repeat. If you want to be successful here in this TVZ, this just does not work out. Roach Ravager aims for the Planetary Fortress. SCV is getting blasted down by a few corrosive biles. Hellbats continue back over. Hellbats coming back across. Okay, still actually rebuilding some extra Swarm Hosts here, so we get some more Swarm Hosts coming through. Extra Swarm Hosts, not something you usually go back into building, right? So kind of interesting to see that being the case. It just shows that Reynor really believes that they're doing well. As we try and dive in over here, corrosive files on a bunch of these tanks, which are all stacked up together, trying to make the absolute most out of that. As we do have Hellbats and tanks continue to come across. British Spire coming over. The Roaches on the way. Ravager coming up. +3 missiles and +2 carapace on the way out. All of these tanks all getting set as our Queen Ravagers trying to fight back. Corrosive files coming through. Tanks taking a little bit of a beating here. As ByuN tries to take position on this side, trying to get our focus onto these siege tanks. We're going to see the Roaches from the bottom side. Going to get a lot of these tanks as well. Really doing a fantastic job of this. So many tanks are dropping. This is bad for ByuN as again his army supply just gets reset over and over again. Reynor is building into a greater spire, giving himself options with Broodlords. It's going to be potentially game ending for ByuN if he just can't really deal with this at all. Reynor battles his way back into this game so far as a couple of Cyclones go towards a couple of those Cyclones. Got some more kills. Swarm Host still moving around. Just going to pop up with these Locusts. They're going to start heading forward straight away. He's going to try and drop into towards these Cyclones, these tanks, etc. It's just going to start going straight on through. The Roach is coming across. Just going to knock down a couple of those tanks immediately. SCV is taking some damage. We do have our Planetary Fortress going down as well. So just going to knock that off. Take that out. No, we're not. It's going to live. That's actually a big deal for Reynor, because ByuN, because then Reynor gave up a lot of time trying to attack that Planetary. and not succeeding, so that becomes costly. A lot of units went down there that didn't get the damage off on the opposing army as they could have done. Couple of infestors, handful of roaches. Going to bear right here. 6 more tanks coming up. Here go the locusts to the far right-hand side. That's a lot of cyclones over on the left. Well, the locusts do begin to drop down. A lot of these tanks will begin to drop pretty much immediately, so we take out a lot of those. And turn onto the planetary fortress a little bit as well. The Hellbat's putting some work in. And that's why you can control these locusts. As ByuN is getting closer and closer to getting a bit of a max out going. This is why I think Reynor wants to make use of the Great Aspire, right? At this point, trade out some of these roaches and actually replace with Corruptors, get the Broodlords going. ByuN's not really in a position to rebuild into Thors, so you could do something like that right now. Might be the timing for it. That might be the play. This one will set up the Locusts, and they go towards the upper side. Heading straight forwards here is, again, lots of Hellbats, so you kind of want to split these Locusts up and go into that sieged up tank, but that doesn't really go anywhere. Like I said, there's not really a good option, right? We're going to try and find a couple tanks here. In the end, we get one. Roach Ravager comes in over here. Another attempt to take out a base. This one will be successful. Just about got there with the final volley of roaches. Just about able to make that work. As now we're being chased, though, and these roaches are going down. There's the Corruptors, though. The rebuild into Broods is on the way, and I don't think that ByuN is necessarily strictly ready for that. But tanks chasing down the Swarm Host in the middle of the map. There's nothing here to help with that. A couple of the tanks will do some damage, nothing more. Here come the Locusts. Do we have some Hellbats to protect? We're going to need a few of them. So tanks are going to start blowing each other up here. I love that we're dropping these Locusts down in waves, not just all at once. Making sure each and every time they land, it's going to be tanks that fire for friendly fire damage. Don't get me wrong, ByuN still has a few units showing up. We built, what, 4 Corruptors, but it seems to be here 2 Broods on the way. It's not going to be the biggest switch into Broodlords of all time, as ByuN does take this base out onto the bottom right corner of the map. Well, that's still working their way through. As you see, the Roaches trying to protect for a couple more moments here as well. Trying to come back over. And again, just chase these tanks away. Again, 2 Broodlords does not seem like a lot. We're going to have 4 in total. You know, honestly, it's just a scary part of, like, do you have enough to kind of, can you rebuild just into Broods? Now we got 6 Thors on the way. This Broodlord switch is no longer going to be the kind of deadly switch it could have once been. Starport's coming up from ByuN as well. Here the Broods, again, no answer just yet, but 6 Thors and a handful of Cyclones will be the answer eventually. Starport coming in, the Thors all coming out. Gonna have smart servos, yes he does. Is that available to him? I don't know if there's a point where Reynor could have done with trading out the Swarm Host to make up room. There's moments like this where it's like, oh, those Locusts are great, but there's been a lot of moments where these Locusts have felt like they couldn't find a fight to really get value if they, it was presented on a plate in front of them. As Roach Ravager will find the upper right-hand side. More SCVs transferring over here. ByuN's going to lose a lot of workers during this. He's already had a little bit of an eco issue, so rebuilding into SCVs is not exactly the way you want to be spending your money at this stage. So just got tanks, Thors moving down to the bottom side. A couple of those Roaches going to get active to the top. Thors continue to make their way through here, and just going to be seeing this push forward. This is where the Broodlords will not have much of a chance. Locusts come in from the right-hand side, and they are going to get kind of whacked away at here. Reynor, no real base set up on the left side. He's really kind of base, a little bit shy on bases, and yet again, it's so weird because it feels like ByuN has had bases all the time, but you just can't take a fight to save him. 12,000 resources lost worse off as the Terran player in this TVZ. ByuN just has not been able to take a good fight to save his life. As a couple of corrosive bars drop down, Thors get chased away. Another hatch will come up at the front. Just going to be seeing ourselves. The spines coming through. Hatches, roaches, ravages. Bit of everything on the way right now. Pop up once again. We are going to start immediately moving forward with those units. And again, this is where you're getting a little bit better with the Locust once more. They're actually finding some units at least every time they move forward this time. That was not the case previously. More tanks, handful of the Cyclones on the way up. The spines are building, the tanks, you know, the hatches and roaches. Reynor really feels like he needs to get set up, but he's doing a great job of also denying the Terran bases, making it so that ByuN will continue to struggle to mine here. And the deeper that this goes, you know, ByuN is genuinely going to be struggling to afford anything because he's only on 36 SCVs. He's run out of spare command centers, more or less. He's got this one here. He needs to get his army to do something, but it's not even looking great. Let's see a few more biles. Tanks will step back again. 28 SCVs dead. So, I mean, ByuN, he definitely needs to put work in right now. The roaches over here going to pick away at a few more of those SCVs. The rest of this army going to go into the bottom left. The hatchery will go down. The Locusts will pop up. We're going to make a dive towards tanks and Thors. Just going to jump straight in toward that. Well, again, at this point, Locusts, in this kind of a game, Locusts just kind of win it out for you, right? Because they are just going to be so efficient, and at this point, you can't really stop them anymore. Again, we lost this bottom left side base, but ByuN lost bases in return, and now Reynor does get some of these other bases up, so he can saturate those 36 drones to 24 SCVs. Ravages continue to come through. And we just got ourselves a lot of units. I mean, at this point, it just doesn't feel like there's enough units for ByuN to really hold this off. Focus are going to pop up, and away we go. And it is just going to be GG from ByuN, as Reynor will take it down. Man, wild game. Felt like ByuN had a lot of options, but boy, he could just not take winning fights. So when he pushed across the map, he really, really struggled in that regard. That's going to be the GG's.